Okay, so I have Ericka Williams, serial entrepreneur, I should say, because not one thing, it's multiple things. So serial entrepreneur, Ericka Williams, influencer, YouTuber, has a lot of insight and a lot of different things. So I'm going to be asking a lot of questions. We have a little bit of time, so I want to jump right into it. And I'm happy to have you here.
For sure.
Okay. All right. So, Ericka, I want to ask you, let's start. I like to start everybody with their background, right?
Mm-hmm.
What was your background prior to business, prior to all this stuff? Like, how did you grow up?
So, military kid, lived in Alaska, lived in Tennessee, lived in Maryland, Alabama, but mostly North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
Alaska was the funnest. My brother was older, so he got Germany. My father was born in Japan. Him and my uncle, my grandparents met in Japan. They both were in separate armies when it was just the woman's army and the man's army. And then they spent 7 years of their life in Japan. So, I mean, it was just like military all throughout and lots of travel. Long and the story short, all of our family goes to NC State. Like, we have this endowment there. We can go.
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot of people who played sports, so we get like a discount. And I was like, no, I'm going to East Carolina. And so just that rebel kid kind of thing. But ultimately, when I left, I did a stint with, the Red Cross and United Way. Great programs, great places to work and learn. And then I started a coffee shop, so I had unfortunately, my grandmother and my father died in the same year, 6 months of each other. So I had some inheritance, and I created a coffee shop called Sunset Coffee across from Fayetteville State University. And it was great for 2 years until the government, city and state, decided, hey, we got this grant. We're going to tear up this road to make this road better. Well, then it really impeded traffic for me and several business owners over there. So about me and 4 other businesses went under during that time because the students couldn't cross the road safely. It was just like crazy, 60-mile-an-hour traffic, no walkway like it used to be. It was crazy. So I was like, all right, I got to start anew, right? Because I had the feeling like I won't stretch or grow if I stay in North Carolina. If I stay an hour from my family or 2 hours in Charlotte, like, I'll never really grow. I'll just be stunted here and I won't grow. And a few people had said something smart, alecky, to me. And I was like, you know what? I'm out of here. So I flipped a coin. No lie, flipped a coin. I was going to go Nashville or Austin, Texas. And I was out. I was gone. So I got out here to Austin and immediately was like, well, I'll just go back to the workforce. So I got an apartment management, and at night I was delivering pizzas because I was just trying to get like this extra cushion of money so I could travel and do whatever I needed to do when I wanted to do it. And so that was kind of my mindset when I got to Texas. So I didn't come to Texas to be poor. I didn't come to Texas to be broke. I came to Texas to be wealthy and enjoy life.
Right.
And so even in doing that, once you own your own business and own your own schedule, it is so hard to fit back into somebody else's time, the way they do things, to kind of like every job I was at, when I would make a suggestion of how they could do things better, faster, quicker, it was kind of like, shut up. And it drove me crazy because I'm like, we can do these things better, faster, quicker. And the opinion wasn't valid. They didn't care that you had a great idea. It didn't matter you had a great idea. This is how they want to do it. So I was, and with that, what's so crazy is I was trying to save this apartment complex I worked at. It had 700 units on the complex, and they were changing over, brand new owners. They were painting, they were doing different things. And I was like, hey, if we just invest in one painter and pay that guy like $50,000 a year, and all he does is paint all night and day, we will save thousands of dollars. I wrote up this whole graph. I put the cost analysis, everything. And they basically just waved me off like, yeah, whatever, shut up. And I was a billings manager. Billings manager, we look at the bills every day. We know how much the numbers are. We aren't the front manager that's waving, hi, how are you doing? And the social manager. We're the billings manager. And so the guy came in painting, and normally painters won't make a crazy amount in an apartment complex depending on the year. But that year he made $350,000. And it was like, because it was a perfect storm. Over 120 units got empty, higher than normal. A lot of tenants saw other tenants being, apartments being painted, so they want theirs painted. It was kind of that like Jones thing. Like, well, they got something new. They got a new stainless steel refrigerator. I want one too. And it was just like, it cost that complex so much money. And every day I came to work with like the smart aleck grin on my face, like, see how that hurt you? And so, so even then, that was just like, one of those lessons. But immediately I called my friend Andrew Bryant and I was like, wait, let's open up a painting company tomorrow. Stat. They're making a killing out here and we don't even have to paint. And so in the next 2 years, we made a ton of money because we used a combination of Home Advisor and just good business, calling people back. Now, what do I mean by calling people back? The reputation for contractors, unfortunately, is that they don't return calls. They're always busy. They forget about you, or they don't finish the job on time. They're always running around, chaotic, confused schedule. And that's kind of where I was like, I'm going to be the phone person and I'm going to take the payments and you just make sure the guys get there. And it worked perfectly. And I've noticed over the years, the companies, whether it's plumbing, welding, construction, the companies that last usually are the husband and wife team, because the wife does all the paperwork and all the invoicing and the husband just does the work. And she kind of keeps on top of the schedule. I mean, you could test this out today. You could literally go to a little food restaurant at lunchtime and ask half the guys there where they're going next. They don't know. They're waiting on somebody to tell them where they're going, or they got a list of jobs they're supposed to go do today, but they don't know exactly what order. And that's very common. And the more you get into the industry, you'll see that all over the place. But it's a lot of money to be made in the trades, because you have 30 million tradesmen who are just aging out of the system, getting ready to retire. They're like 68 to 72 years old. They're really, really older. And people don't understand that. Like, a lot of the tradesmen are getting to the age of retirement. And they're bouncing out this year. So if you can, I mean, one of my goals I was telling them is if I could find like 20 young men and I could put them through HVAC school for 6 months or something, oh man, I would do that in a heartbeat. Not just charitable reasons, but also just make a ton of money. I would like call up companies like, you need some guys? I got some guys coming out of school here. So, it's a lot of opportunity in the future that way.
Yeah. So this business that you're talking about right now, what was your primary function in that business?
Really was just invoicing, taking care of payments, overall administrative work, and being 51% owner because I was a woman and a minority. To try to get on government contracts and get on city contracts.
Okay. Because I know you have a lot of different businesses. So
that business, what I ended up doing is I ended up selling. My friend was more into fences, and so once he started being more into fences, I was like, well, I just felt I was ready to kind of get out. Like after 2 years, I felt like stagnant. I was tired of like sitting at a house taking payments every day. To me, that was boring. And better, if I'd have thought about it better, I would have just hired an administrative person. Right. But my friend was kind of the person like, well, what are you doing? If you hire somebody to go do that job, well, why are we paying half and half? And it's kind of like, that's the problem when it comes to blue collar work. A lot of times they feel like, well, I did the work. Well, but I found you the work. So you wouldn't be able to do the work if I didn't find you the work. And so you get a lot of that going on in the system.
Right.
And so it's always better if you own the company outright and just hire the labor.
Okay. So, and that's funny.
I sold my share to that company.
It's funny that because you already answered one of my questions was, what was your first business? And so that was the shop.
Yeah, that was a coffee shop. And then the second one was the painting company. I even had like a little granola business in North Carolina when I was in college, so there was a lot of little things I tweaked on and worked on. But never, didn't see it in that frame. Looking back, I was like, oh yeah, I started other stuff. You know what I mean? But I just didn't see it in the frame.
Right. But you were ready. You were ready to go. Yeah. So at this point, how many businesses do you have right now?
I would say technically 6. That I'm either full ownership in and have staff hired out, or contractors or VAs hired out. But I would say 6.
Wow. How do you find the balance?
You know what? What's funny is I would tell people this like most people who start businesses are creative, but businesses are very boring and very routine and very seasonal. And I know this drives people crazy, but in all my classes, I teach people, if you can break your business down into 4 seasons, it'll save you so much headache. So you got January through March, April to June, July to about September, and then October to November, right? So you break it down in those. You can do that for any business. If you're a lawn care, if you're in Texas, you got 10 months of business you can do. There's only a 2-month area in Texas where it's down, and even in those 2 months, you can do leaf You can clean up, yards for the leaf repair, cleaning up gutters, drains. You can do all kind of stuff. Tree trimming because it's winter time. But it's always seasonal. If it's e-commerce, the hottest time for e-commerce is Q4. And let's say you're in fitness, your hottest quarter is Q1 and Q4. Why Q1? Q1 is, and really for fitness is Q1 and Q2. Q1 is new me, new year, new me. I'm gonna do all this. I'm gonna buy this planner. I'm gonna buy this fitness book. I'm gonna buy all these cookbooks, these ebooks. I'm gonna buy all this crap and don't implement none of it. Right? Or right before spring break, which is like April, May, June. Like, oh man, we gotta get these, all this stuff to get in shape. And so even if you break it down to like a little karate school, right? I drove by this karate school. Last year, they had a gangbuster year because parents were tired of the kids being stuffed in the house all day. The kids needed to get the energy out. And as long as they wore a little mask, those parents didn't care. So this karate place was like, hey, need a place for your kids to get that energy out. Like it fit, right? So the kids, and even the marketing and the posters, the karate place had self-defense. Don't let bullies take over your child. So they even got a poster so that every time when it's August to September, I see that poster for the get your kids self-defense up, right? Then in the summer, it's like, get the energy out your kids. And then in the spring, it's like, get your kids in shape. So it's always cyclical. And if people really understood that, 100%, I feel like when I talk about consumers and producers in the market, when you put your producer hat on, you're like, man, they are killing it, right? In America, they sell all year long. Nonstop, right? So even I'm trying to think of another way to say it. Let's just run through the months, right? So what goes on October, November, December?
October, November, December. What's that? Halloween, Thanksgiving,
Thanksgiving, Christmas. So you're completely wrapped up in Hallmark movies and decorating your house and getting your fall pumpkins, fall apples, all that stuff, right? Well, in those months, that's the number one time frame for tax lien sales, tax deed sales, Super Tuesday sales. And so people who are producers are buying up tax liens because the person who, they owe that tax bill, what's on their mind? Well, I got to give my kids a good Halloween. I got to give my family a good Thanksgiving. I got to fly home for Thanksgiving. Oh, I better take my week off for Christmas. I got to go back to Christmas, And so they already cut themselves out of fourth quarter. I even tell people this when I do my YouTube, I already know fourth quarter, nobody's listening. So I just talk about whatever I want in fourth quarter. I just talk about getting ready for the next year. That's really what I talk about. Then let's go back over to quarter one, January, February, March. I sell planners. I talk about the new year, getting yourself in courses, getting yourself trained up. What are some things you can be applying yourself to? I book masterminds Q2 in the summer because people, maybe the year has been sluggish. They didn't start off like they wanted, but now they're in Q2. They really want to, I'm almost halfway through the year. Let me get the year through right? And then that midsummer slow drag, I'm going to talk to you about getting your kids ready and getting you ready for the fall, right? So it just happens over and over again. The same cyclical patterns, whether it's in fitness, whether it's in YouTube, whether it's in if you even look at the relationship channels. They go crazy in the wintertime because people are at home alone, bored of relationships, and then they're watching that stuff on YouTube. Well, then the spring happens, and now they're in this spring mode of where I'm going to get somebody by Valentine's Day. Well, then they don't get somebody by Valentine's Day, so then they're going to use all their time in between there to get their summer body ready so they can be summer hot. Hot girl summer, hot boy summer, right? So even in every dynamic you can sell, whether it's I've seen relationship books sell off the livers in the summer and the spring, right? All last year there was like people selling activity books and like activity books for couples, activity books for children, activity books for spring, fall. You name it. So again, once you understand the patterns of actually running a business, that business is cyclical and it will always be that way, you immediately change your mindset. Of like, okay, what can I sell? When can I sell it? Okay, why would I sell it at this time frame? And you could almost put some of this stuff on autopilot, right? Even in the health and fitness, right? The health and fitness, even on the detox side, holidays, let's detox for the holidays. Springtime, let's detox for the springtime. About to go on that trip, let's detox for that. They really play up on people because they know it's so hard for people to change their schedules and their systems that they just keep racking it up.
Right. It's funny. It's funny you say this too, because I know for a fact it's true. Because there are traders, and that's all they do. They just do seasonal and cyclical trades. Like I remember in business school, I had a buddy, and his aunt every year she would do options for all the Christmas type of companies. Okay, the retail. She figured out how people order every time during that time. So it's going to be prior, right? And so she figured out how those goes. She buys those options and takes it across the finish line year in, year out. And she just lived off of that. She didn't even do anything else.
Yeah.
So she understood that pattern so well and just did it every single year. In commodities, they have guys that just take seasonal trades every year, and that's all they do. They understand that pattern. They make a ton of money, do it again next year, do it again next year. Oh, there's a little change in this. Oh, okay, I understand what that is. Do that. And they just repeat, rinse and repeat. And, at this corporate level, they understand what you're talking about.
Yeah.
They look at what's going on. Okay, this is how people are going to operate in large numbers. This is the season for this, season for that. And we see it around us, but I think a lot of people don't think about it. When you go to Target, every time you go in there, it switches over. So they go from Valentine's Day to Easter, and Easter ends, and then they do another one, and then they do the next one. And so if we actually observe more around us, we can see this operating. I think that people just don't think about it for themselves. I think
because they get into a rat race. They literally are just like rats running around like, oh, I got to go work. Then I go here. Then I go here. Then I go here. And so when you talk to people about absolutely 180 degrees changing their life, it's like, what? Like when you start hearing people are sick and thyroid and all this other stuff, and you say, hey, if you do this 180 degrees different, you change your life, right? Because people always want to be like, how can I lose pounds in 30 days? How can I get $10,000 in 30 days? How can I do this in 30 days? And you're like, you'll be sick at the end of it, right? Right? Like I've seen kids who were homeless literally all of a sudden go to working pizza at night, delivering jobs, like working 2, 3, 4, 5 jobs to stack up all this money, pay their rent, get some comfortable and get some things sorted out, and then go back to their routine.
Yeah.
It's the same with teachers. I've seen teachers work really hard because they're going to go on a trip in the summer, take all the money they worked on in the summer, their part-time job, and go on their vacation, and then come back and be a teacher and be like, oh, I'm broke all year.
Right. I mean, if I was just talking about this the other day, how much of business is really just, it's funny because when we talk about college, they say the degrees that don't matter are the psychology and sociology and stuff, right? Well, if you think about it, most of business is probably just sociology and psychology, because you're just understanding how people move in large numbers and over again, how they really think, not what they say all the time, not what they say, but what they really think and feel. And if you
there's a book called Why She Buys that's really good. Like, it talks about why women are buying things. Super, like even with the baby boomers, like the whole thing with them kind of downsizing, van life, all that stuff. Like even if we talk about real estate and wholesaling, if we talk about just like prime example, wholesaling and fencing, right? I'm gonna tell you like this. Wholesaling, there's 17 million vacant houses in the United States. On top of that, every tax time, when it's time to pay the tax bill, all of a sudden you remember you got that aunt and uncle house you inherited, you're not doing nothing with it, it's just sitting there right on the ground. That emotional feeling that tied to it lessens. So people know to blow your phone up around that time, right? Summertime or fall or Christmas when money's tight and they know you need some money. Hey, we're looking to buy that property that you just got sitting out there vacant, blah, 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 So that's how they hit people up. Seasons. Same thing with fencing. You literally could just drive around Texas all day looking for broken and battered fences. But when does it matter the most? When people want to put their kids in the backyard around summertime. Yep. When they have dogs, when the HOA is writing them up citations. A lot of times people do things because their neighbors are watching, right? So we would put a sign out there that we just fixed somebody's fence, and then we get all these calls from the neighbors seeing if they could afford it. And so everything you can look at out here in the business world is cyclical. And once you know that, you will never be overwhelmed. Like I literally take once a month. I do it at like in November, December. I write out all of next year, the blogs, the podcasts, all of this stuff, so I can like be ready. You know what I mean? Sorry, this lady was waving, and I was like, "Who is that woman?" Okay. And so I do all that stuff so that I'm ready. I'm super ready and I'm gonna knock it out of the park. Well, then I just keep going on and tweaking the list, right? I just keep tweaking the list. I'm like, okay, it was tax time. Tax time, you're gonna want to repair your credit. You want to try to do this and that, and then boom, here you go. And then summertime, you're gonna be like, ooh, hot girl summer. Then in the fall, you're gonna be like, oh, I need to repair my credit again. You know what I mean? So I just already know. I already know how people are gonna be. Yeah. So I don't get overwhelmed in owning the business. Once you own a business and you realize I'm a creative person, but 95% of the system works on systems. Like the average person is 9 to 5, 99%. So if I build a business that solves their need, which is their need is I need to do it fast. I need it to not be too complicated, and I'm willing to pay you for that. Whatever that squeeze point is, that's where you are in the business.
Right. I basically just understand that people want things tomorrow. That's kind of how people think. They want everything tomorrow. And then coming up with a way to mitigate the time that would actually take, as much as possible. Me, I like to look at it like I like to mitigate time, but I also like to function in reality. And it's always kind of in credit and funding kind of world, it's always crazy with that because, as you know, ain't no like.
Even if you break it down to people and like, hey, listen, let's get your credit all the way clean, and then once a month for the next 2 years, you apply for one or two things a month for the next 2 years. Someone doesn't want to hear that. They want to hear, I'm going to get a $500,000 or $1 million loan tomorrow. Yeah. Not that I'm going to get 25 grand every month for the next 2 years, or that I'm going to stack. You know what I mean? Because they think in like, even now when I talk to people on the phone, they go, yeah, I need to retire and I need a certain amount for retirement. I go, well, how much do you need? I need 10K a month. Well, how much do you make right now? Oh, I make 3K a month. So how are you going to not only retire when most people income goes palupa, you're going to triple your income.
Right.
See, people don't understand that if you want to have that income now, that you need to be living at that income now. You need to at least be making that income now. So you're used to it. You don't go crazy when you get it. And it's a realistic number for you. People say 10K because they hear other people say 10K.
Right.
Most people, and I'm going to tell you like this, if you ever talk to military people that retired and get a pension of like $3 grand a month, once they get their car they like and they're in the house they like and that stuff's paid down, they live well. They live really decently, unless they have a lot of medical conditions.
Yeah. It's funny because I made a post about that a long time ago. I might have to post again. It's called How to Be Rich on $3,000 a month. I couldn't do it now.
Listen, and what's crazy is I have like deductions, subscriptions. I have like every week I go to get a massage. Once a month I go to get a facial. There's things you get into a routine of lifestyle creep that you're like, oh, I couldn't do it now. But
I could do it now.
If everything went crazy tomorrow, I could do I've even told people on YouTube, if I lost everything, every single thing, every long-term money thing, everything was locked out for me or something crazy happened, I would literally get in this. I kept one of my older cars. I keep it on purpose. I'd get in that thing. I'd deliver food. I'd go put on a nice t-shirt, start networking. I'd start working with people in real estate. I mean, I literally would go on Bigger Pockets, find someone who needed me to make phone calls all day, get in their office and blow their phone up for hours. I would just, whatever phone they had for me, I'd get on the phone all day. Once I was done, get on the phone, I'd be like, hey, can I talk to your buyers list now? Can I talk to your, your cash buyers? And then I talk to them, and eventually, guess what's going to happen? And somewhere in that 30-day range, I'm going to be documenting my journey. I'm going to have money in my pocket. I'm going to find some way to be super valuable to those people that someone's cutting me a check of $5 to $10K that month. And even while I'm working on it during the day, then I can leave that place. Let's say they're done at 5 o'clock. From 5 o'clock to 9 o'clock, I'm going to drive my car. I'm going to deliver food or drive people, right? I'm going to stack that money, and I'm going to be back where I was in like 2 to 3 months. Yeah. Right. So again, it just depends on what they say. Oh, Ericka, you lose everything. Okay. If I lose everything, but I have a car, no problem. Even if I lose everything and I don't have a car, at least if I have a place to stay and a phone and a laptop.
That's right. I know exactly what you're saying is true. I live that out. I literally live that out. So I had
$1,000. You could offer some type of service for $1,000 and do it 10 times and you got 10K.
Exactly. Well, I mean, again, like I literally lived that out. So what I had an old beat up phone. I still got it. It's in the back. I had a beat up laptop that's sitting right over here collecting dust. And I had like and I had a car. Okay, and a little dusty bag. I still got over here, right here. And I got on the phone every morning. The power of the phone. The phone is undefeated. Like, you can change your trajectory just with a phone by itself. If you have any type of skill that you've accumulated over time, and most people do, they may not even realize it, but if you were
they don't realize it. Yeah.
They don't realize it. If you were sitting there at a job for 10 years, okay, most adults, or even if you're in and out of the industry, something, you've accumulated some real skills. You may not realize it, but if you bring those skills to market and you just sell them yourself, you can get yourself almost out of anything. It's just you have to be willing to embarrass yourself and get on the phone and get cussed out or whatever. But if you're willing to do that, nobody can really stop you. You can create something out of nothing. And then, like you said, documenting it. You could be uploading that. You can learn all the other elements of being online and whatnot. And before you know it, you can turn things around very quickly. It seems like a lot of things, while we're on this topic, a lot of things that you do, you make it into something that people can learn from. Or you make it into a course or something. Is that a conscious effort? Did that become when did that become something normal where you just started taking the skills that you have and you started packaging them and putting them out? When did you really get into that? When did you realize that was a thing to do?
Well, I started telling people, when I kept telling people the same answer over and over and I got tired, I was like, okay, we've got to package this, right? I went on Dr. Boyce Watkins' channel via Andre Hatchett, and I was like, people were like, I want to talk to you. I was like, all right, here's a paid consult link. I had 600 phone calls. I was so exhausted after that, like, splurge of 600 calls, like, just for the next 3 months I was on calls. It was crazy. And so what I ended up realizing is, all right, that's what I have to offer is valuable, but I get tired of saying it over and over again. So how can I package it so that I'm not always saying it over and over again and wearing myself out in the process?
Right.
And so that's kind of when it started, like, and so it was like the tax lien. I showed what I did, how I did it. I shared my screen. And a lot of people are always, and this is what cracks me up about people, and I'm going to be very honest. People are like, oh, is the course new? Is it updated? Honey, some of the stuff I'm showing people, it does not change.
Right.
That's what I want people to understand. Like, people are always looking for the shiny new thing. There are people out here who've buying tax liens every year, like clockwork, all year long, depending on the city and state, for the last 7, 9, 8, 9, 10 years, and it has not changed. Yeah. And that's what's the problem. People think, well, there's got to be a new way. And no, it's really the truth of the matter is you need to make more income, mind the gap of what you have left over, take that excess income and invest it. And when I used to hear it, I'd be like, oh man, it's got to be some kind of way. No, now that I'm here, and I know that drives people crazy when I say that, but I'm like, dude, I literally got to a point where I was making so much money as a department manager, it covered all my bills. And then when I was delivering pizzas, they were like, why are you still doing that? Because I was taking $2,000 to $3,000 a month and putting in Lending Club and putting it in Prosper and putting it in smaller batches of like investments and Acorn app and all these things that I tested, because that's where you put the money at, right? So even along the way, I kept hearing the same thing over and over again, where I would hear it from food service workers. Hey, if you save $27 a day in a year, it's $10K. You'll have more than enough money to buy a house, because I kept meeting all these food workers who owned a house, and I could not wrap my brain around how do all these food workers have a house and I don't have a house, right? Well, one, it's the price point of the house and how far they lived out. And two, it's because they were living on the principle of, if I just save $27 a day in a year, that's $10K. I see so many people share it around the internet now, but I know for a fact I was the first person to say that like 7 years ago. And I laugh about it because it doesn't matter who says it first. It matters who says it the best or the most. And so I want you people to understand that too, right? Because people are like, oh, it's the market's saturated. It really isn't. It really isn't. Like to this day, every day somebody will bring me somebody like, oh, I follow this guy on YouTube, and I have never heard of them ever in my life. Right? They'll bring me like every day somebody bring me 5 to 10 people that I've never heard of. And I'll be like, who? Yeah, he's super big. He's got 1 million followers. I'm like, never heard of him. So even Grant Cardone jokes like, hey, have you heard of me? No, that's my bad. You haven't heard of me. That's my fault. Because the world is so noisy and so big that you could literally get 1,000 new customers every year for 20 years, Dave Ramsey. And people still would be like, Dave Ramsey? Who?
Yep.
Every year you could do it. And again, so the information, when people talk about, oh, is this new? Is this new? It doesn't matter. The information is exactly the same. You can go pick up a 1920s and that stuff will still apply today.
Right. A lot of it comes down to what makes logical sense.
Mm-hmm.
Logical sense will always basically be a constant. And it's crazy because you can apply it to so many different things. And once you have the fundamentals on something, it makes it easier to find out how it can be modified or something like that. But it's still going to have that basic, those basic principles that it's actually standing on. On that, let's talk a little bit about one of your programs, which is Rise of the 20%.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk a little bit about that. What is Rise of the 20%, and what is what is it based on? What's the fundamentals that it's based on?
So the Rise of 20% course came out of the virus coming out, and people are like, oh my God, this guy is falling, and I'm like, no. What's going to happen is the same people, and this has happened in the last recession. There's about a 20% of people who move up, and there's a 20% that move down. And so every time people look up, they're like, oh, times are so hard. And I'm like, no, every year we get brand new millionaires. Hundreds of people becoming millionaires every year. How is that possible if everything's falling? It's just not the truth. So a solid 20% of us will be thought leaders, will be people in our community that spark change. And how does that happen? That happens when we start rising our mentality and our thought process, right? Because a lot of people, when I ran into them, they're like, oh, great, more things will be on sale. I'll have other things to buy. Great. And so I put that as the premise of the course, that we would meet and mastermind and talk with each other and encourage each other and come up with ideals for seasons. But also that's just life, right? There's going to be this rise up of people who can see over the noise. And those people are thought leaders.
Right.
And they're in every community, every city, every state. Sometimes they're thought leaders for bad. Sometimes they're thought leaders for good.
Yep. Understanding how to get in between the wealth transfer, or how to extract from that transfer of wealth to some degree, makes a big difference.
Well, even I'll put it this way. I talk to people about master plan communities, and people are like, what does that mean? Only those kids will interact with each other in that school system. It'll be a neighborhood of 1,000 homes, but only those kids interact with each other of a certain tax bracket, a certain income, of a certain mindset, of a certain thought process. And they only interact with each other, right? Just be those kids in that group. And then if you look further outside of just that, right, where it's just community, master plan communities, if you start looking at parts of society where people conglomerate with each other, and those wagons get smaller, but they get tighter, right? And so I always tell people all the time, it's access, it's money, it's just the way you talk. Right now we have like a $30 trillion wealth transfer is going to happen in the next 8 years. And people are like, what? And I try to break it down this way. Construction, real estate, and healthcare are 45% of American GDP, but they're only 6% of the stock market. Because the stock market is its own little, it's like 9,000 companies over there. Over here is 32 million companies over here. And out of the 32 million, 24 million are one-person owned companies, right? And so the biggest bang for our buck is going to be the small business that do what? Push up hire staff, gobble up industry. A big part of the 30% of the money that's going to be transferring is going to be wealth family offices. Prime example, one of the family offices you can think of is like insurance. You can think of, AC management, property management, all these things, right? What ends up happening is all these pension funds, they need consistent dividends. They can't get them from real estate because real estate's so dog eat dog, so sharky. So many people are going there to safe haven, which is real estate, that the pension funds are like, we need some guarantee. Well, who's going to be able to provide it? Family offices that are like the biggest insurance company in the state. The family office that has a conglomerate of dentist offices, the family office that has a bunch of, properties under management and can guarantee that pension fund 4 to 5% returns. So a lot of family offices are going to soak up some of that money. Prime example, there's an article, you guys can look it up, and it's talking about SPAC, which is SPAC. They're basically a blank check organization that's going to raise money to do what? Who knows, right?
Mm-hmm.
Michael Dell was like, hey, the Dell family office is going to raise a $500 million SPAC. Why does the Dell family office need to do that when Dell, the company, is a multi-billion-dollar company and he's a billionaire, you know? And so it's like, even his family office is separating off into this and going to rise up in this wealth transfer.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a lot of stuff people don't understand in the process.
What are some changes you see coming on the horizon as far as the trucking industry?
Number 3 things, you're going to see more foreign drivers. It's going to still take 5 to 10 years for all electric vehicles, all no-man vehicles. It's too much risk with insurance. If you look at what happened in Texas during the freeze, a truck with no man would not be able to man that. You'd have accidents all over the road because it was unknown conditions. Conditions change at any moment. Mm-hmm. You're going to have to need more younger drivers. Anytime there's a recession or depression, prime example, I saw over here, there's a school that teaches driving, or they recertify you in 4 weeks. Its parking lot is full, like 40 cars deep. And I haven't seen that all, even during COVID, all that. I didn't see it because people realize, oh man, it's a change. I really got to make some guaranteed money. Right. Mm-hmm. So I asked them how many people they see in there. They're like, I see barbers, I see hair people, I see guys who have seasonal work in here all the time because now they need something solid, guaranteed.
Mm-hmm. Are people sleeping on YouTube? Is people's belief that you need 1 million subscribers to make money? Is that true?
People don't understand most businesses, and the same as YouTube, right? So YouTube, you have some late people that were all over Instagram. Yeah, Instagram, and now they're over on YouTube, but they're still not formatting their business the correct way. They're doing all this kind of crazy tactics to get subscribers, not realizing that even if you get 1 million subscribers, there's going to be a solid 1 to 10% that still rock with you all the time. So it's great to get 1 million views. It's great to get 1 million subscribers, but let's just put it to you like this. Out of the 300 or something million YouTube channels out there, ridiculous number, only 76,000 have over 1,000 subscribers. I'm in one of the 76 out of millions of people who have YouTube channels. Mm-hmm. So really 76 of us have legit channels, okay, out of that number. And then out of that 76,000 of us, probably out of that number, I say maybe 7,000 of us have legit, it's a business, it's a structure, it's systematic, it's, there's systems and processes in place that the business can run with or without us. I've seen people's channels be sold to other people because they structure it right and it's not just all about them. They were the brand, but now they're not no more. Mm-hmm. So there's a first generation of YouTube that's kind of already retired. And now we're in that second generation of YouTube. And so there's a lot of people like, oh, I want to have the best graphics, the best video, the best everything. Well, they've got all this amazing video and they make no money. Mm-hmm. And people say, oh, that's not possible. I run into them every single day. They're confused. They have AdSense that's giving them maybe $2,000 a month. And they have this expensive, beautiful camera work and no money. So I see it every day, but I see also people who are podcasters growing like crazy. I see people who are running shows, making a ton of money. There's a lot of opportunity on YouTube, but it's still in 5 years, it's going to be like, whoa, crazy. Now you're seeing all the guys who kind of washed from fitness, right? They were in fitness forever, but that got completely oversaturated. And so then they started selling supplements, t-shirts, brands, and having to develop real companies.
Right.
So there's people that have been on YouTube for 10 years now saying the same stuff, selling the same courses, trying to be Dave Ramsey's. And I'm telling them at some point, they're going to take that YouTube money and put it somewhere. Mm-hmm. Because you're just saying the same stuff over and over again at some point.
Right. What can we expect to see from Ericka in the future?
This year, a lot more focus on real estate. I'm basically almost 180 degrees. As much as you saw me in trucking, you're going to see me in real estate. You're going to see me investing in apartments. Investing in multifamily in the Midwest, mm-hmm. but mostly Texas because that's where the growth is. Southeast is the growth spot for the next 10 years. Mm-hmm. When we talk about New York's going to feed Florida for the next 15 years. And it did it before, but now it's really going to do it because it makes no sense. If you're a person with any kind of money, taxes, all that stuff, New York makes no sense. What are you getting for your money other than to say you live in New York that you can't get living on the waterfront of Florida?
Mm-hmm. And as far as where people can find a lot of your information, the YouTube information, all the jazz? Where can people reach out and find that?
They can find me on Ericka Williams Classy Climb blog, Ericka Williams Classy Climb on YouTube. Pretty much consulting while I'm still doing it, because this year I'm taking a little sabbatical. I'm taking about from the last of April to about August off. And I'll essentially be, traveling and checking on properties. And, there's an aspect of YouTube that requires a lot of attention. And when you do property work or you're rehabbing, it needs your attention as well. So I'll be on semi-vacation, mostly vacation.
So, okay. I know you got some things to do, but I'm glad you're able to come on here. You have to come back on.
Sure. Listen, anytime.